Hey everyone, welcome back to Hey Alexis. This is the podcast that helps you feel confident, fluent, and totally at home in English. So I'm Alexis, and we have Jerome today. Welcome.
Hi. Oh, hello, hello.
All right. Thanks for joining us today. So I am an American living in Ecuador, and I wanted to talk with you today, Jerome, about why Americans talk about the weather so much. So, have you ever, even if it's a cloudy day or super hot, and someone still says, "Oh, it's such a nice day today"? Have you encountered that before?
No, in Ireland it's the opposite. We always complain about the weather because we try to find something we have in common that we equally dislike. It's the only way you can really bond with someone is to have a common enemy. And
Yes.
everyone hates the weather, so yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I think it's a mixed bag in the US. Some people might say it's a beautiful day, or some people might complain as well. But it's not so much about the weather, right? It's just trying to interact, make small talk. And basically, it's saying, like, hi, I would like to have a small conversation with you.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's because like how are you has become devalued. And now when you say hi, how are you? It doesn't mean how are you doing? How is your health? How is your family? It means hello and nothing else. So if you actually want to get the conversation starting, you need to actually ask a question about something or
yeah,
begin on a
if
topic.
if you just say to me, "Hey, how are you?" I'm not expecting a small talk conversation with you. But if you make a comment, or if you ask me about my weekend, something like that, yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
today,
because it's kind of an automatic response when someone says, "Hey, how are you?"
mhm,
I'm fine, thanks. Even if you've got like stage 4 cancer, I'm fine, thanks. Like
yeah,
it's autopilot. You don't even think about it.
exactly.
And also you don't want to bother other people with your problems as well because that's not good.
It's more just a greeting. I would say, "How
Yeah.
are you now?"
Very good. So
So,
why the weather, Alexis? Why do people choose the weather? What's that about?
mm, like we were saying, it's just a friendly way to start a conversation. So, I wanted to talk about some things to start with, some things you should say, some things you shouldn't say in small talk. For example, with the weather, some people start with, "Can you believe how hot it is today?" How would you respond to that?
I know, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And they probably would comment something more about, "It's been hot all week," and continue from there.
Hmm. I just realized how disagreeable I am now because here in Colombia,
I figured.
I just realized now that you've got me thinking every time I get into a taxi here in Colombia and the taxi driver tries to make small talk with me and says, "It's cold today," I say, "Ha! Ha! You don't know the real cold."
You
I
haven't
probably should
suffered.
stop doing that actually. It's not helping.
Right. It's not about the weather. They're
No, it's
just being
not.
nice.
I've made it a competition.
Yeah. Who has the coldest?
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right. So, at work, what might be a conversation starter a coworker would say to you?
Hmm. It could be maybe complaining about something that mutually affects everyone. Preferably not a person, but maybe, for example, it could be a client or it could just be some project you have to do, some long task. And yeah, complaining, nothing like a common enemy to bring people together. And yeah, if somebody's got an unreasonable deadline
Mm,
or a mutual client has made some last minute changes, this is
yeah,
great.
some type of unfairness is,
It's very
everyone likes
helpful.
to discuss that.
What about you, Alexis? Anything you'd add in a work
Yeah,
setting?
definitely. I like to keep it simple because I like the other person to kind of take the direction of what they want to talk about. So usually I just would say, like, "Hey, are you having a busy week or a busy day today?" And then take the back seat and listening.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. So, for our listeners, what is the difference between talk and small talk? Today's theme is sort of about small talk. What do we mean by this small talk?
well, if you say I want to have a talk with you, I would assume is really serious. It might be bad news or just something.
A heavy discussion. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
a deeper discussion. And small talk is light topics, weather, sports, celebrities, global topics. My students this week were liking to talk about the tariffs Trump imposed this week.
Uh-huh.
That was a hot topic in my
Okay.
classes.
I like to feel out my students to know where they stand politically before I get into political conversations, because that can be quite risky.
Yeah, I don't mind talking about it, so I get asked quite a bit.
Ah,
My
well, they
opinion
asked,
is,
they opened the Pandora's box. That's
yeah.
on them.
But yeah, basically, so small talk, you're just creating an opportunity for a conversation. It's no personal details or strong opinions. It's just like saying, hey, I see you, I acknowledge you, and I'm being friendly. Not a competition about the weather.
And what are
So
some topics that would be maybe taboo or out of bounds for small talk?
to avoid, well, like you said, you're not going to bring up politics immediately. So obviously politics, religion, money, um why don't you have kids?
Oh,
Why
yeah.
aren't you married? Things like that.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. Politics, religion, money, and I think anything kind of to do with. You can sometimes talk about family and kids. That's okay,
Mhm.
but if they have them and they're free to talk about them. But I think generally anything that is too intimate is kind of taboo as well.
Yeah, maybe if you're a mother and your coworker is a mother, you guys can talk about your kids. But you know, I don't have kids myself, so I it's not my favorite topic to discuss.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it'd be a little. You have to read the room, right? You have to know your audience.
That's a great expression. What does it mean to read the room?
Be aware of who you're talking to and be sensitive of these topics or being offensive or even insensitive. So if you're in a room of kids, you're not going to talk about violent movies. If you're in a room of adults, you're not going to discuss like
Baby shark.
trying to convince them to join your church or something right away.
There we go. Yeah, absolutely.
So, can you tell us some expressions or phrases that we can use to start a small talk conversation that would be useful just to have in your vocabulary and kind of ready to go when you're talking to just anybody you might meet?
Well, my probably favorite go-to conversation starter would be, "Do you have any plans this weekend?" Because it's a good jumping off point. There might be something happening in the city. There could be a concert going on. There could be somebody popular visiting. There could be perhaps a flood, which means there will be no plans at all, or some natural disaster,
Yep.
which means that no one will be doing anything. There could be terrible weather, which leads into the weather conversation, as we had earlier.
Yep.
Or maybe somebody is just going to describe a hobby, and you might have that hobby in common. So there's quite a lot you can do there.
Yes, different basically when I'm in a small talk conversation, I ask questions exactly until I find something we have in common and then I stick to that usually.
Mm, yeah.
It's a kind of easy structure system you can use.
Yeah, and you can get more intimate once you've found some common ground, something you have in common. If you both like BMXing, you can move from very, very light small talk to a really in-depth conversation about
Yeah?
Shimano gears or something, whatever you're into, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Have you ever had
Yeah.
this with a student where you started off small talking and then you ended up realizing you were both tennis players or surfers and you thought,
Mhm.
well, clear my lesson plan. We have something better to do today.
Definitely. Yeah, we went down that wormhole together. Yeah, or just really intriguing conversations, about um, things you don't normally talk about, maybe political situations or how countries, government systems operate or public health care. So
There we go. Yeah.
it's a fun job most of the
Another
time.
conversation starter, especially if you're a foreigner, and I get this a lot, is where are you from? It's a kind of a
Hmm.
good jumping off point. Do you get that a lot, Alexis? Do people ask you where you're from?
I think I must look pretty American because everyone knows usually they can assume. But yes, they want to know what I'm doing here in Ecuador, what made me choose to move here, what my opinion of it is here. Yeah, definitely.
Mm. That can be. I have a lot of people here in Colombia who ask me my opinion of Colombia, and they usually want me to say something very positive about the local cuisine.
Always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You have to follow. Yeah, you have to find something you love and compliment it like it's the greatest thing ever invented, or you're gonna have a
Yeah.
lot of enemies.
Luckily, Ecuador is really, really beautiful with the nature, so you can always go to
Nice,
that, and people appreciate that. And it
perfect,
is. I mean,
great.
they have the Galapagos, the mountains, and then the Amazon. And it's a very small country, so easy to travel.
Hmm. And of course, there's the weather. Yeah, you can never go wrong with the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Back to the weather always, as
yeah.
you see.
One of my students, I asked how the weather was in Brazil at this time of the year, and she
Yeah.
told me the weather was very mild. What does this word mean? Mild.
It's I would say when the seasons are changing almost it becomes a little mild. So it's not extreme. It's not super cold, not super hot, not a lot of rain. It's just that typical
Temperate, kind of.
temperate weather, nothing too exciting going on.
Very good.
So, um, I wrote us a little example of a conversation that I want you to help me with. So I'll start, and if you'll just follow along, so people can see kind of how a general small talk conversation should go. All right. So, hey, how's it going?
And not too bad, thanks. You?
Pretty good. The weather's been crazy, huh?
I know. Yesterday it was freezing, and now it feels like summer.
Classic spring, right? You got any plans for the weekend?
I'm thinking of doing a little bit of hiking if the weather holds up.
Nice. Well, I hope it stays sunny.
Very good. Yeah. You could also jump into complaining about global warming or something. There's a lot you could do with that.
I think I would have jumped on the hiking part because I like hiking.
Nice.
It's that's then hiking usually leads into what? Biking, skiing, other mountain related
And if you live in
activities,
the
I would
same
say.
city, you can discuss the same hiking routes where you maybe some recommendations that you have.
Exactly. Okay. Well, good. So I think that is everything we wanted to cover today. For the listeners, now it will be your guys' turn to start a conversation. So imagine you're in line at a coffee shop and the person next to you smiles. What could you say in that moment where you have the opportunity to start a small talk conversation? So it could be about the weather, it could be about the coffee. What else could we mention, Jerome?
Do you believe in aliens? Is God real? How do you feel about abortion?
Yes,
Should we buy
absolutely.
guns? Yeah, these are all
Yes.
good light conversation starters.
Those are your go-tos. Yes. No, don't listen to
No,
Jerome.
don't listen to me.
You could mention the song playing in the cafe. So, if you guys leave your conversation starters in the comments, we'll definitely respond. And yeah, that's it for today. So, now you guys know why Americans love to talk about the weather and how to kind of join that conversation naturally. So, thanks for listening. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and talking. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks for having me. All the best.
Thanks.